Good afternoon. I'm Father David. Thank you for joining me today for Disciple Time as we're focusing on the Passion of St. John the Baptist. And today is the memorial of the Passion of St. John the Baptist. He is the patron saint of Jordan, Puerto Rico, and many other places, but more importantly, he is the patron saint of conversion. And so the question I'm asking today is, where do I need to experience conversion and growth in my life? Now, what I love about John the Baptist is he was not only a relative of Christ, but his entire ministry was dedicated to preparing the nation of Israel to be ready spiritually for the coming of Christ. And what an awesome, relatable ministry that is, to call people to take a hard look at where they are communally and individually and where they need growth. And when I think about people taking these evangelistic steps in our culture, a few names from not too far back kind of come to mind. One of those is Martin Luther King Jr., one of those is Billy Graham. Both of these people were very evangelistically powerful speakers. And more importantly, they were both asking the question, where does our community need conversion and growth? And both of them identify that it's within the individual that has to start, right? So where do I need conversion and growth in my life? That's kind of what the underlying question was as they were addressing these social issues. But like John the Baptist, when any person stands against the popular currents of culture, many times that's also the very thing that gets that person canceled within that culture. And we might think being canceled is something that just recently sprang up. But the truth is, the Bible is filled with people being canceled for their desire to serve God and ask these questions: where do we need conversion and growth? So in our readings today, we see John the Baptist was asking this question: where does our community need conversion and growth? And he identified that it was the king abusing his power, that there needed to be conversion and growth in the leadership of the country. And so he does something radical. He calls out that power, and that's a very dangerous thing to do. But we read in our gospel from Mark today in chapter 6, verse 18a, where he says, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." And he's calling out King Herod. And what is King Herod's response? Well, John the Baptist did in fact get canceled in a hard way. He was arrested, he was thrown in prison, but then more importantly, Herod's wife, concocted a scheme to even take more kind of revenge on John the Baptist for calling out this abuse of power. So she wanted John the Baptist dead, and we know the story of how King Herod called his wife's daughter out to dance, and when she danced, she granted him anything she wanted. And what did the mother tell her to do other than to get John the Baptist killed? So we read in Mark 6:27 through 28, so Herod promptly dispatched an executioner with orders to bring back that's John the Baptist's head. He went off and beheaded him in the prison. He brought in the head on a platter and gave it to the girl. The girl, in turn, gave it to her mother. Well, you want to talk about abuse of power and just the crazy way things can go when you make stands for what's right. And it's no different today. When someone goes against some popular opinion or speaks out against power, Martin Luther King Jr. is a prime example of this, but even today, if you turn on the news for a minute, you're going to see how fast certain political candidates or public figures or popular people get canceled by this television station or that for calling into question where we need conversion and growth, whether it's as a community or individually. And in our reading today, we see in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 that even the apostles faced this exact same thing. So the apostles were going out and they were going into the Jewish and Roman cultures, asking that question, Where does our community need conversion and growth? How can we change individually to make that happen, to prepare ourselves, for the coming of Christ in kind of a mystical sense, I guess. And look at what it says here. For you yourselves know, brothers, that our reception among you was not without effect. Rather, after we had suffered and been insolently treated, as you know, in Philippi, we drew courage through our God to speak to you the gospel of God with much struggle. So we see here that the key to living into our Christian identity, into that call, comes from that divine courage that God gives us, right? He is the one who is going to empower us. He is the one that is going to give us courage. And what does this mean? It means that even if we're a little bit afraid to engage in some kind of ministry, that's okay, because it's not our courage that we have to rely on. God is going to give us the strength to engage in that ministry. And what is that ministry going to give us the strength to do? What is that courage going to give us the strength to do? Well, it's going to give us the strength to be truthful about where we are as a community and where we are individually and where we need growth and conversion. And that's the real prerequisite for conversion, right? The grace to see and accept the truth about who we are and where we're headed, both individually and as a community. Because if we never address any of the issues, we're never going to come up with any solutions or any change. And what does that truth, once we accept it, enable us to do? Well, once we accept it, it allows us the opportunity to take steps to make changes that actually lead not only to conversion and growth, but healing and wholeness. And I want to take this not so much on a community focus today, but an individual focus. So the question I was asking was, where do I need to experience conversion and growth in my life, right? It's easy to see where other people might need it in their life, but we might not be that accurate. We might think we are, but we don't know what's going on in people's lives. So we have to ask the question to ourselves, where do I need conversion and growth? Where do I need to accept the truth and make some changes in order to heal and grow? And I want to give a personal example. One of the ways in my own life that I've seen this is in my level of fitness, right? So I'm going to take this to a very physical level. After my hernia surgery, I was very sedentary. I stopped riding my bike and working out, and I was kind of nervous about exercising again. But once I accepted the fact that I was out of shape, that I needed some conversion there with how I was doing my physical stuff, with God's help and with the help of some friends, I've been able to take steps to fix this by going to the gym. So, this can be done in any area of our life, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, mental, or spiritual. We have to be able to ask ourselves, where do I need conversion and growth? And then take steps to bring about that healing. So what's the application today? It's that question, where do I need conversion? What truth, if I accept it, can I then take steps to change for the good, to bring wholeness, to bring wellness? Well, I hope that this helps you ask that question and be honest with yourself, right? This is the memorial of the Passion of St. John the Baptist. He is the patron saint of conversion. So if we need help thinking about that, let's go to St. John the Baptist. Thank you for joining me today as we have looked at the Passion of St. John the Baptist. Christ in every